to the United Fancast. In this episode, we'll be going over the United game versus City on Monday, the 8th of April, 2012. We'll be going over the City lineup, the injuries, the United lineup, their injuries, how the City United rivalry has evolved in the past few seasons, and we'll be predicting our predicted score at the end of the podcast. I, Khalid7, am going to be your host for this podcast, and my guest is Silverkaj, a City fan from the FootyTube forums. And there are a lot of things to talk about, so we're going to get right down to it. All right. So, what do you think? What do you think, Silvercatch, about the City injury so far? Who do you think's going to not play in this United game?
Okay, so we have company who's just been back from a long injury from 2 months. And, after Mancini's critics about him playing for Belgium, he played quite well, and I was impressed with his goal against Newcastle last game. I think we have company who's in form. Aguero has been lately a bit shaky, with all the constant injuries.
Yeah.
So far, I think who do we have injured? Maicon. We haven't seen Maicon in a while.
Yeah,
Mika Richards.
They said Mika Richards might play in the United game, maybe.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting because he's been out for quite some time, and having him back would be like a great comeback for Mika, especially for him. And it's a big match with United. I'm sure it's gonna be great to have him back. He's been one of these underrated players, I think, and he has a lot of potential. He's very strong in the defense as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I was reading about, I didn't watch the City game versus Newcastle, but it was said that David Silva also got some niggling injury as well. Tevez was playing with an injury for the rest of the game. So It seems like City got a lot of their players with some sort of injury problem or the other. Like Company just came back from an injury, like you mentioned. A lot of their attacking players seem to be now 100% fit.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna. So far, I just watched the interview with Mancini, and he didn't really mention any injuries, but I would expect the regular, probably Lescott would play. I'm not sure if Lescott or Nastasic would be in defense. Company surely will play. Mancini said he might exchange Zabaleta with Richards, Mika. We'll see if he's fit. Cliche might play. Yaya Toure, of course.
What sort of formation do you think City's going to line up with? You think they'll play the regular 4-2-3-1 type, or they're going to go with the 3-5-2 that Mancini likes to go with?
No, I think he'll go with 4 this time, because United are a team not to be underestimated with, And I believe he's going to go full offense this time, but also, have the main center backs in defense. I'm sure Aguero's gonna play. Probably Tevez. Exchange with Jacob minute 60. I would say that's a good choice. I hate to label him as a super sub. A lot of people call Jacob super. Yeah. But he's, I don't know. For Dzeko, I feel like sometimes, he's a star, and then other times he's, I don't know, he needs to tackle more. The thing is, Tevez, what I like about him, he's always running behind the ball. He's a fighter, And he always gives us 100% when he's playing. And Dzeko, I think he has great kicks and strikes, but he has to work on his dribbles as well.
Yeah, right now, we're probably going to go with 2 strikers. What's our partnership do you think you'll be playing? Because I think 3 of his strikers are available. That's Tevez, Aguero, and Dzeko. Who do you start with?
I would say Aguero and Tevez. That's my personal opinion, but we'll see what Mancini has under his sleeves. What kind of tricks?
Yeah, I think Dzeko is good off the bench. I know he doesn't like it. I don't think anybody likes being called a super sub or having to come off the bench. But in terms of a team, everyone needs a good player that can come off the bench. I think every major team has one. Like Higuain comes off the bench often enough. But all of this is a rotation policy in Real Madrid. United is Chicharito, and in City there's obviously Dzeko. So everybody's got one of those type of guys. The players just have to be comfortable with it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see the thing with Dzeko is The good thing about him, even when he's on substitute, he's always focusing. He's giving his attention to the game. If you notice, he's been substitute like early in the season, like minute 60 or 70. I don't know which game it was, but he saved us from a lot of games, and that's something to give him credit for. That he always focuses, even when he's on the bench. And not a lot of players. Some players, just sit on the bench and watch the game, but he knows exactly what's happening, and credit to him for that.
Yeah, why would you start with Tevez and Aguero? Because you mentioned that those two you think or you hope will start first. Why do you think those two are more important than a Dzeko Aguero partnership or Dzeko Tevez partnership for the United game?
Yeah, I think Aguero and Tevez have a good chemistry going on. These guys when they play, they both understand their positioning. They know how to tackle, they dribble, they run. Dzeko's good, but he's like how do you call him? He's his positioning as well, but he needs to also work on his movements. That's what I think Dzeko should work on. But not to criticize him, I think he's also a fantastic player. Once he's on form and he positions himself well, he has amazing strikes. His kicks are fantastic.
Yeah, I think United also some injury problems. Apparently Rafael and Rooney started training, but Vidic and Evans, maybe they'll miss the game, so I don't know who's going to play for sure. Rio's probably going to be there. I mean, he's got a week-long break and everything. And maybe Jones will partner him, maybe, I don't know, Smalling's fit enough, maybe he'll partner him. Rafael will probably play right back and Everett left back. What sort of lineup do you see playing? I mean, you mentioned who's going to be in defense, and the goalie's obviously going to be hard. Strikers are going to be Aguero and Tevez. Who do you think will be in midfield for City?
Midfield, I would go for Yaya Toure, James Milner. I'm not sure if you might see Gareth Barry. Maybe, Samir Nasri a little bit front and back and midfield. Of course, Silva will be playing. He's a key player. Oh yeah, Rodwell. I don't think Rodwell would be a first choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if some of the French players will play. I don't think the Rodwells or the Xavi Garcias will play. I think probably be Barry because of experience. Yeah, Toure will probably play because he's not only experienced, he's actually very good. Milner, and I think Milner would definitely, whichever side he plays on, is going to help make sure that flank is completely secure from any of United's attacks. Although I think the main problem for both teams is that there's a real lack of width. City doesn't really have any wingers, but United have wingers, but they're not in good form.
Yeah. I think our main issue here as well is the wingers, because I mean Zabaleta is fantastic. He's one of those players who has a lot of soul. When he plays, he gives his all. It's like Tevez. He reminds me of Tevez, and I don't know. I think Mancini mentioned he was injured or something, and if he's out, then maybe Mika would replace him. I'm not sure if he's also fit. Cliche is good. Cliche, he's fast paced. He can run fast, and I think that's our maybe you can say our weak spot would be on the wings, on the wingers. But I wouldn't discredit Zabaleta as well. He's one of those players who suddenly he would come up from the midfield and just pop one goal. You never expect that.
Yeah, I think that's a major problem with both. They don't really have much width. Whoever gets width is going to be the ones that have best utilized their fullbacks. Most of the play, I think, is probably going to go down the middle. And I think this is where maybe City might have the advantage if Yaya Toure is on form, if Silva is on form. Then this is where they might have the advantage over us.
Absolutely. And, the thing about Yaya Toure is he's that player who can play, defense, midfield, or even offense. He can multitask, and it's quite a rare quality to find a player who can do multiple, positions. We have to wait and see who's injured, and then I think Mancini will have to lay out a form that would be comfortable with each player and knowing which best location and which position each player would be suitable at,
Yeah, that's what Mancini mentioned recently when Yaya Toure, I think, signed a new contract, and he said that Yaya Toure is sort of player that can play in many positions in midfield, even in defense. And the best thing about him that he's physically fit, so he can play till like 35, 36. So I think, yeah, Toure is probably going to be such a key player for City for the next 5 years or so.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he's turning 30 now, which is it's a great blessing for us to have a guy who's in that age and he can still play very well. I think he's just one of those natural talented players who can just play with the ball wherever it is, and he is a fantastic player, and I'm glad he decided to stay with us because a lot of us City fans respect him, and he has a very important place for us as City fans.
In the previous game for United versus Chelsea, Rooney wasn't fit. He had an injury or something like that when he came back from England duty, and he ended up missing that game. I think we really missed him. Obviously, our wingers played bad. That's except for Valencia, who did well as fullback, but Rooney was really missed. This game is going to be really important. Rooney's on top form the second he plays because, as we mentioned earlier, with the quality of City have in the middle on their day, if Rooney's not on form, then it's all the workload's going to fall on Carrick to hold the middle.
And do you think the formation for United would be Van Persie, Rooney, and would you also play as Kagawa and injured, or is he in form?
He's not injured. I don't know about on form because this is his first season and he's been kind of protected ever since he's arrived. I think next season is going to be his main season. This season's all about transition. I think it'll be Van Persie in front because Sir Alex said that Van Persie should not get a break at all. Even Van Persie himself doesn't want a break. I don't think Chichaita will play. He'll be a super sub if anything. Rooney will end up having to play otherwise if it's just Carrick. If it's no Rooney there, then Carrick's going to have a lot of workload on him. And as we've seen in the Chelsea game, Carrick is a good player, but he can't do everything by himself.
Okay, I see. Well, it's going to be an interesting matchup, and honestly, I can't wait to watch the game. Yeah, for us, it's you can say it's over. I mean, congratulations, I can tell you for the win from now. And for us, it's I would say it's more of a matter of it's a matter of pride, for us. It's always been a strong rivalry between City and United, and I hope the best team wins on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of rivalry, Company and many other City players have been talking about the rivalry. I think even more than United players have been. Like Company mentioned about the City game that this match is all about. It's going to be who is going to be champion of the match. That is all it is. I don't expect Manchester United to be less motivated because they have this points gap between us where they're pretty safe. But it'll be like a one-off game. It'll be like a cup final. There'll be everything in it. And and even Kolo Toure and a couple of other players are going on about how much this derby, this rivalry between United and City has grown in the past few years since Sheikh Mansour has taken over. What do you think has happened in the past few years? Do you think rivalry has grown and given more importance?
I think I remember I was watching that interview with Chairman Khaldoon Mubarak, and I really liked the quote when he said, "This is not the typical City. Forget about the typical City. City is now a major top club, and they're competing for top European championships. And it's been quite a transition, from 5 years now, and." Having that potential, with players, the talents we have, and also, speaking of the new academy we're building, it's a great initiative for City and Manchester itself to have two main clubs that are, put on a global scale, and having those two clubs, represent Manchester is just a significant achievement. And I see a great rivalry to come in many years, and it's going to be really interesting to see what unfolds in the future.
Yeah, before Sheikh Mansour took over, there was obviously Taksh Nawatra, and he did well in terms of making City a more prominent club in terms of competing with United. But ever since Sheikh Mansour has taken over, the City has been a much bigger rival. Actually, I'd probably agree with what Kolo Toure says, where the Manchester Derby is now the biggest game in the Premier League season. It probably will be that way for the next God knows how many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be, the usual rivalry in La Liga. You can say Real Madrid, Barcelona. It's going to be that. I think Manchester City and United are going to be, very, very interesting. There's going to be very interesting matches in the future, and it's even on TV, like I read an article I think last year that there was I don't know how many million viewers just watching the game, and that itself brings a lot of advertisement to the Premier League, and I think it adds more spice, you can say, or interest into the game and the British Premier League,
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned an interview with Khaldoon Mubarak. I'll actually put the link to that in the description below. Now, Khaldoon
Okay.
Mubarak, as you mentioned, said that this is no longer the typical City where they might do some things well that they mess up and they have to come back, do it again, the same situation over and over again. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with what he says, but this is no longer a typical City because in the years past, United have tend to dominated the rivalry in terms of the trophies, in terms of winning the derbies, that sort of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
as we've seen last year, that whereas even City are capable of scoring those last minute goals when it really matters and securing titles with the Aguero goal versus QPR last season.
Yeah. And even if you remind me of that match, it's like a Hollywood dramatic ending, It's yeah. I mean, how many times are you gonna see a team that's gonna win in the last second and get a trophy? This difference in points. It's crazy, this whole match. I remember last season. I think it's what put City on the spot, and people are paying more attention to the club itself right now after that win. And I think it's going to be a beautiful rivalry. Honestly, I can see Manchester, as I said, being put on a global scale because of the great rivalry that it's in one area, which is Manchester. To have two great clubs that are competing probably for top, Champions League positions. And I hope next year would be, a final between United and City. That would be like the best.
I don't think Platini will be happy with that.
Nah, we can sideline him for a while. It's time for us to shine.
There'll be some quotes from a couple of people, Kolarov and Mancini in particular. Kolarov mentioned that if City played 100%, then they think they're better than United. Do you agree with that? Where if City is 100% and United 100%, then City are better than United as a team?
Well, honestly, I think it's any player would say that coming from his club. To be fair, and I think it all goes back to how players are informed, how the formations are being laid out. And, honestly, I think also the atmosphere plays a major role, as fans, cheering for their team and support, they get more excited and they put more effort in the game. So there's a lot of factors that play in terms of which club would be better, I mean, the thing is about the Premier League, which I really like, is you can see small clubs beating, top clubs, as happened to us in Southampton and as happened to United with Norwich. No disrespect to other small clubs, but I mean, in terms of player qualities and it's interesting how it lays out. And this is the beauty of the Premier League, that you cannot predict who can win a game.
Yeah, Mancini also he mentioned that although United are probably going to be deserved winners, City don't deserve to be 15 points behind United at this stage of the season. What do you have to say about that? Do you agree with what he said or disagree?
Yeah, I think I agree with him because we have a lot of potential in our team, and we've been lacking goals, this season due to multiple injuries. Yaya Toure being in the African Nations Cup. We have also, I would say quite some bad transfers. And I don't know, it's been a bit shaky this season, and I believe that we should have scored more goals, and that would be the difference. I mean, I would expect, City and United, the gap would be like maybe 6 points, around 6, 5, that would be the acceptable gap, but 15 is a little too much,
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Mancini's trying to say. What he mentioned also was that City have pretty much been the same defensive unit this season like they were last season, pretty much the same, but it's an attack where they lack the most bite, where he mentioned that, Balotelli was missing for most of the season, where he got injured and then got sold in the January transfer window, and there's the injuries with
Yeah.
Tevez and Aguero. Yaya Toure went to African Nations Cup. and it accompanies injuries. But what United fans in particular have been mentioning was that last season United had a lot of injuries based on some table. Someone more worked up that United had come up last in the table in terms of the most injuries or players missing, where City were actually on top. So a lot of United fans think that it's kind of like in the shoes on the other foot. Now City know what it's like to have so many players injured or missing. What do you think about that? Do you think it's just because City haven't been able to cope, or is it more than that?
Yeah, I think it's many reasons. If you put the factor of, some people say it's a second season syndrome, as they call it, as it's like a hangover after winning a championship. They tend to become more subtle when they play, but then it takes a while because City have been winning championships just for we've won the FA Cup, the Premier League, and the Charity Shield, which is a great achievement. But we still need to digest that idea and know that we need to give 100% more potential in the games. As I said earlier, the multiple injuries have been playing a main factor of our lack of goals, and honestly, I would want to criticize Balotelli as much as I like him, but I don't feel like he put any passion in the game this season, and it shows once he's been transferred to AC Milan. He's been a scoring machine there. This season, I think he scored only one goal against Wigan in the Premier League, and that's it. And it shows you, I don't think he wanted to. I don't think he liked Manchester, because he did criticize. He said, "I didn't like the weather. I didn't like the food," and it shows. It shows when a player doesn't like the area. It has this impact on him, and he doesn't give his best when he plays. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad Balotelli moved. It's what he wanted, and I wish him all the best. I think he's a fantastic player. And us City fans, we still adore him. He has a special place for us because remember, he's the guy who assisted Aguero in that QPR goal. He has a special place with us. And I just hope that Aguero would be fit as he was last season, and with having Aguero and Tevez and Dzeko, we can do it. I think we can.
From what you mentioned earlier was from a City perspective, why City hasn't been able to perform to what expected standards. What do you think, from your perspective, why has United performed, I suppose, better than they did last season?
Well, I think you have a scoring machine. His name is RVP.
He hasn't scored much in recent games, though.
Yeah, recently, I know. But in the beginning of the season, he's been fantastic. United, with all due respect, they have more experience with games. In terms of having players not on form, they know how to cope with it. They know how to react and where to position their players. And City also have been a bit shaky in terms of constant changes of formation.
Yeah.
I don't know what Mancini is trying to do with the different formations every time. It's maybe he's trying new methods. Maybe he's trying new tactics. I understand that. Every manager tries to be creative, and it worked for us at times, and other times it didn't work for us. So I'm not quite sure what will be the formation against United in the next game, but I'm hoping it will be one that would be suitable for the players we have.
Yeah, from a United perspective, I think the reason City haven't played up to the expectations, which is disappointing for me, because there are two teams I was hoping will be involved in the title race. One will be City and Chelsea, but this season. I don't think there's any chance. But I think the main problem regarding City, has been that they've had more injuries than last season. There's no doubt about that. The injury table doesn't lie. City had the least injuries last year compared to all the clubs. Whereas this year it's been a lot worse for City in terms of injuries and players, not being on form. I think it's the summer transfer window where Brian Merwood bought some players that obviously Mancini didn't prefer as his number one choice. That was a major problem as well. Like Scott Sinclair
Absolutely.
has barely featured. Maicon, I don't know why he was bought in the first place. They already have two good right backs, Zabaleta and Mika Richards.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a discussion we've had on our forum as well, regarding the transfers. I think we can all agree that the summer transfers have been not what City wanted this last summer, and you know, I can give you examples, as you mentioned, Scott Sinclair. He only plays like 10 minutes in the end of each game. Didn't really make much of an impact. Okay, he's fast paced, he can run, but I don't see him as a replacement for Silva. Silva is way more important. And who else do we have? Javi Garcia. Okay, his advantage is he's tall. He's tall. He scored with his head a couple of times. And but still, is never a replacement for Yaya Toure. And what else do we have? We have Jack Rodwell. Rodwell has been playing good. I mean, I don't know which game we had last time, and he did he put a show, but I think we should give him more time and see where his potential will lay out. But nothing really drastic. You know what I mean? It's the players that we bought we can say mediocre, and I'm expecting that we will have a couple of sales at the end of the season, and we could buy probably someone who's top.
Yeah, from the United perspective, personally, I know a lot of United fans would just prefer every single rival of ours just crashes and burns, but that's not really going to help the Premier League quality. I think every, I suppose, mature fan prefers that everyone plays up to their potential and improves not just for them to improve or their rivals to improve, but in order for the league's quality to improve and of course play better in terms of Champions League, Europa League, and the coefficients for the European competitions.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would like to see City and Chelsea especially improve. I think the main problem has been, in Chelsea's perspective, has been stuff off the pitch in terms of how they're managed. Of course, you have two managers in space of one season is not a good thing. And City has had some problems. I think the main problem has been a second season syndrome, as you mentioned. It's usually tough to cope with anyway for most teams, not just City.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind that this new team that we have with the Manchester City is a team that's been winning trophies lately, and it takes a while for them to digest the fact that maybe this season it's not our season, but it takes a while, as I mentioned, the second syndrome after winning a championship. It's gonna take its toll, but we're gonna learn from it. It's an experience, and I hope we grow from this experience, and we know where our weaknesses are, our disadvantages, and we can work on that to improve and keep playing better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to see City play better next season. It's just no fun when one team is so far ahead; just doesn't make sense. But
Yeah, so
regarding
it keeps the rivalry, entertaining. When there's a small gap of points.
Exactly. Yeah. Like regarding the upcoming game between United and City, what do you think the score is going to be, in your opinion?
I think it would be a 2-1 for City. Yeah. No, just because I'm a City fan, but also I think because we need that win. It's a matter of pride, as I told you. It's 15 points is too much. Maybe 12 would be more reasonable.
Personally, I think both sides are going to score. It all depends on which team is on form and right down the spine of the team, because as we mentioned earlier, that there's no width really in both teams except for the fullbacks. It's all going to come down to which team's centre parts, like centre midfield and strikers, are on form. I think it's probably both sides are probably going to score a goal. I don't think they're going to keep clean sheets. I'll probably go with 2-2, maybe a 1-1, or maybe a 2-1 for somebody. I'll stick my neck out for now. I'll probably say it's going to be a 1-1.
Probably. I mean, if as you mentioned, if the players are in form, there should be a lot of goals, and if the players are not in form, then someone's got to suffer, or it's going to be a tie. Yeah.
All right. We'll end this part of the podcast. We'll move on to the second part that we'll be recording a little later on.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Say bye to the guys.
All right. Cheers.